Hi, my name is Aaron Joseph Delgado, or you can also call me AJ because I go by that. And this is my thesis. Long story short, I'm in my third semester here in the UNT program, so finishing it, about to be my last. Woo! So, I had to propose this semester. So I'm in a different phase compared to the other students you're going to see on this panel or that you have talked to or heard from today. So this semester, I was very much focused on figuring out what am I wanting to write my thesis on. So long story short, my thesis is, or a thesis, typically is probably going to be over 100 pages. And for our semester, for our program here, specifically in the comm program, you get 2 semesters to work on it. So I started here in this fall, and I'll be finishing it this coming. Oh, I started here in the spring, but I'll be finishing it this coming fall. So there you go. So I had like the summer to work on it, and then I have those 2 semesters. Long story short, when it comes to my thesis, it is sort of the development of different interests I have had within my academic career, if you will. So long story short, I am a former speech and debate competitor. I competed for my high school, I competed for my community college, and I competed here at UNT. Altogether, have all more than 8 years of experience. And I now coach here at UNT. So I'm not here right now in this video because I'm actually down in a different room, 341, because my students here that I coach are actually presenting. So if you're actually curious about that or interested, feel free to let me know. Shoot me an email at aaron.delgado@unt.edu, or I'm also, if you just Google me, I'm going to pop up for the webpage. Quick plug. Cool. That being said, my interest comes from a lot from advocacy or the things that I've done through speech and debate. So in many ways, the things that I study are exactly like, has been from like a very Black feminist point of view of like, how exactly did we get to here? Like, where is like the bottom of the, like, where is like, instead of like a top down, let's go with a bottom up. So we're going to go from like a bottom up. What does that look like? So one thing I've really been interested in is sort of like these identities in our society that don't really meet our expectations, or like when they are presented to us, we're sort of like, well, what do you mean? So this is also not necessarily everyone who's going to agree with it, but a few people are. So like Latinos for Trump, to give you a prime example. Latinos for Trump is not necessarily like a bad movement or organization or anything, but what's interesting about it is that Trump himself, as president and now, has done a lot of things rhetorically, meaning through his words and through his through his election, that would say that Latinos are not one of his favorites, or people of color are some people he's not a fan of. In many cases, being racist. This is not to have a debate with anyone, but this is to be like, hey, it's true, like this is documented, we can see this. But why exactly when he does that, does that mean someone who is Latino still wants to actively support him, even though he's like calling you names? And so my paper is very much interested in identities like that. Identities that support MAGA or Making America Great Again, or Trump, but they don't necessarily have like a for sure way of knowing exactly what Making America Great Again means for them. Because what does it mean to make America great again? Where are we returning to? The US has always been a melting pot of identities, but each identity arrived in the US at a different point or somewhere already here. However, based on like how like sociopolitically like things are, there would be an assumption that whiteness whiteness has been made uncomfortable by people of color, or minorities, or people who are not a part of this standard of like looking a certain way and acting a certain way that only certain people of a certain class have access to. So long story short, my paper analyzes, or my paper of the truthful hyperbole of Making America Great Again basically argues that for when it comes to Latinos for Trump, or examples of an indigenous tribe, the Lumbee Nation for Trump, Chinese Americans for Trump, Christians who are black but identify Christian first for Trump, fantasize that Trump allows them to be a greater American. So instead of seeing the MAGA movement as making America great again, they interpret it as being able to make themselves into a great American by buying into everything that Trump is saying wholeheartedly and believing that, like, if I disregard all these different things, then I'll have a better life and world because of the fantasy I see for myself as an American. So in different ways, my paper is very much interested in exactly how has Trump talked about being an American, but not how Trump has talked about it, but how exactly have the individuals that are not white or like straight or like cis that voted for Trump fantasize their vote for Trump doing something for them that's more than just a vote. Because there's a reason why they casted their ballot that way. When it comes to like our politics as of now, I oftentimes hear the argument that it's too focused on identities. The Democratic Party isn't doing enough X, Y, and Z. And that's fine. Like, there's no like arguing it is or isn't, in my opinion, right now. Because my paper is interested in exactly why exactly are people leaving different parties or moving between them? And why exactly are they engaging in politics that leaves like other people's and like research and like statistics like we have like troubled? And when I say troubled is it brings us to question it. Because like at the end of the day, I could not see myself voting for Trump. Aside from everything else, aside from my sexuality, aside from my class, because he has been outwardly and actively racist towards Latinos. So I know that at the end of the day, I'm not a part of the world he argues for. But there are individuals that fantasize and believe that there is. So to give you some like more of a straightforward context, my paper, in short, analyzes the fantasy themes of being a great American or becoming a great American through the truthful hyperbole of making America great again that is performed or done by the demagoguery of Trump. Specifically, my paper analyzes the rhetoric made from or the persuasive items made by the individuals that are part of the vernacular discourse. Vernacular discourse meaning minoritized bodies. So Latinos, gays, trans, blacks, Africans. Like it depends on how you frame it, but minoritized bodies within the U.S. that actively support MAGA. And I do this through three themes. So when I say fantasy theme analysis, this goes back all the way to the Civil War, determining exactly what is manifest destiny, or where is that rooted in. And so this develops off of that, playing with fantasy theme analysis, arguing that we need a psychoanalytical approach, meaning we need, in order to understand how we as individuals fantasize, we have to understand the subconscious. So in this understanding of the subconscious to understand fantasies, I argue that in order to be a great American as a vernacular individual or minoritized body in the U.S., there are three themes that you can buy into to help achieve it. Piety, patriarchy, and identity control or self-determination. I'm still working through the third one. But the first one being piety, having a strong traditional or conservative conviction of your religion. So evangelicalism or Catholicism, or if you're or Hinduism, depending what it is, as long as it's conservative, and then you're seeing Trump as like the savior or someone doing religious good work. Second one being patriarchy. Patriarchy very much deals with the different nuances of like buying into a man should be in charge of the household, controlling women's bodies. very much seeing machismo within Latino culture as being like a harbor or something to pin down into. And the last one being self-determination or identity control. And this really deals into the psychoanalytical aspect with desire. So some of you, this may be kind of out there, but like desire deals with our like sexual urges. So I argue that individuals that are a part of this, like Latinos for Trump, who outwardly say they are or outwardly don't say they are engaging a form of like pleasure. So like meaning that the more tension they create with their identity and like when they engage in conversations with people and the more riled up they get other people like frustrated, it makes them feel pleasured. So by doing so, they gain power over others because they can pleasure themselves by being politically interesting. And so through these three different themes, I argue that individuals that are minorities can actively fantasize about being greater Americans. That was a lot. Feel free to ask me if you find me, and I can talk to you more about it.